You're born somewhere in the Pokémon world, in a mid-sized town with a gym sitting right at the center of it. Congratulations, you're a gym leader's kid, which sounds exciting until you realize what that actually means. Your first real memory isn't of a playground or a school. It's of standing at the edge of the gym floor, watching your parent battle a challenger, with two Pokémon colliding in the middle of the room and the floor shaking under your feet. You're maybe 4 years old, and you don't move back, because your parent hasn't moved back, so you don't either. By the time you're 7, you already know the type matchup chart by memory. Your parent tests you on it over dinner, pointing at type names and waiting, and if you get one wrong, you go over it again before you're allowed to leave the table. Then, one morning, your parent walks into your room, sets a Pokeball on your bed, and tells you that's yours now. You pick it up and press the button, and a small Pokemon comes out and looks at you. It doesn't walk toward you. It just stands there. Your parent takes you down to the gym floor and tells you to give a command. So you tell your Pokemon to use its move, and it looks at you, then looks at the wall, then sits down. Your parent watches the whole thing with both arms crossed and says nothing. So you try again. The Pokemon sits down again. You spend the next hour on that floor trying to get it to do anything at all. And by the end, your parent has left the room and you're alone with a Pokemon that wants nothing to do with you. But you come back the next morning and try again. And the morning after that. You're 10 years old now, and most kids your age just got their starter Pokemon and are leaving town for the first time with a backpack and no real plan. You've been training for 3 years already, with your Pokemon finally listening to your commands consistently, and the two of you working through drills on the gym floor every morning before school. Then, your parent enters you in a local junior tournament without asking you first, just tells you the date and tells you to be ready. So you prepare, running through matchup scenarios and practicing every move in your Pokemon's kit until the two of you can run a full battle drill without stopping. The tournament goes well at first. You win the first round, then the second, with your Pokemon hitting every command cleanly and the two of you moving together in a way that actually works. Then, in the third round, you walk onto the field and the kid across from you looks like he's been on his journey for about 3 weeks. His shoes are muddy, his backpack is held together with a clip, and he keeps looking at his Pokemon like he's still surprised it's there. But he beats you. His Pokemon moves before he even finishes the command, reading the battle on its own so the two of them act like one thing instead of two, and your Pokemon keeps waiting for your next instruction, giving just enough of a gap each time for his to land the hit. By the end, you're standing on the field with your Pokemon still on its feet, but out of usable moves, and the other kid looks more surprised than you do. Your parent says nothing on the walk home. That's somehow worse than any correction you've ever been given. That evening, you go back to the gym floor alone, and that's when something shifts between you and your Pokemon. Not in the training, in everything else. And soon, you'll need more than drills to fix what just went wrong. Skip forward a bit, and you're 17 years old now, and your parent has just told you they're retiring and handing the gym over to the league to reassign. The thing is, the league doesn't just hand a gym to the previous leader's kid. You have to earn it the same way every other trainer does, which means you need to travel the region, beat all 8 gyms, and place well enough at the league conference to prove you're actually worth putting in charge of one. So you pack a bag, take your Pokemon, and leave town for the first time in your life with a list of 8 gym locations and no idea how long this is going to take. It takes a year. You win some battles cleanly and lose others badly, then rebuild and go back, with your Pokemon getting stronger every time the two of you figure out what went wrong. By the time you reach the league conference, you've got all 8 badges and a team that has been through enough real battles to know how to handle pressure. You make it to the quarterfinals before an Elite Four member puts you on the floor in 12 minutes, with your entire team down before you've had a chance to adjust to how fast they read your strategy. But the league doesn't need you to beat the Elite Four. They just need to see that you can get there. A few weeks later, the appointment letter arrives. You're the new gym leader of your hometown gym. You inherit the building, the type specialty, and a salary that is genuinely smaller than you expected, given that this is a government position with real responsibilities. The first week, you battle 12 challengers and beat all 12, with your Pokémon barely taking any damage across the whole run. By Friday, your legs are tired, and your arm is sore from throwing Pokeballs all day. Nobody mentioned this was going to be every single day, and word travels fast in this region. You're 19 years old now, and the gym has become a routine that runs the same way every single day. Challengers come through the front door, take their position on the field, and you battle them with your team held at the league-approved level for your gym's difficulty rating. Most of them you beat cleanly, with your Pokémon reading each challenger's strategy after the first 2 moves and adjusting so the result is rarely in doubt. But some of them genuinely push you, with their teams built around countering your type in ways that force you to change your whole approach mid-battle. And those are the ones you think about afterward. When you lose, you hand over the badge, tell the challenger they battled well, and watch them leave through the front door with their fist in the air. Then, you go to the back room, sit down with your team, and spend the next hour going over exactly what happened, so it doesn't happen the same way twice. The league requires you to stay beatable but fair, which means you can't just run your strongest lineup against every 10-year-old who walks in, but you also can't let people win. That line is harder to walk than it sounds. Once a month, you travel to the regional gym leader meeting, where 8 gym leaders sit around a table and go over challenger data and league policy updates. That's where you meet the water-type gym leader from 2 towns over, a trainer about your age who has been running her gym for just as long and looks just as tired. After the meeting, she challenges you to an off-record battle in the car park, and you say yes without thinking about it. She wins, then you win the rematch, then the 2 of you stand there for a while before driving home separately. You start doing that every month. It's the only battle all month where you actually try. But one morning, a trainer walks through your door with a team you've never seen before. Every single slot picked to counter your type directly. And they're 12 years old. You're 24 years old now, and the 12-year-old destroys you. It's not even close. She sends out her first Pokémon, and you can already see the problem, with her entire team built to hit your type from angles you haven't had to defend against in years. So every move you call lands just slightly wrong, and every move she calls lands exactly right. Your first Pokémon goes down, then your second, then your third, with each one falling faster than the last, because she's been planning this specific matchup for long enough to have answers ready before you even make a decision. By the time your last Pokémon drops, she hasn't lost a single one. You walk across the field and hand her the badge. She takes it, thanks you, and walks out the front door with her backpack bouncing behind her. That's it. The whole thing is over in under 15 minutes. That evening, your water-type friend calls and tells you the same trainer came through her gym 2 days ago and did the same thing. The 2 of you sit on the phone for a while without saying much. You already know this girl is going to be champion. You both do. The part that's harder to sit with is that you gave everything you had in that battle, and it still wasn't enough, with your best strategy falling apart in real time against a kid who simply prepared better and moved faster. You go back to the gym floor afterward and sit down with your first Pokémon, the one who refused to move when you were 7 years old and is now the most reliable member of your entire team. It sits down beside you, with its side pressed against your leg. You've been defending this gym for 6 years. Then, the league sends you a letter, and the language in it is very careful. You're 25 years old now, and the letter from the league arrives on a regular Tuesday with the rest of the administrative mail. The letter says the league has completed a regional review of challenger retention data, and your gym has been reclassified as a mid-tier difficulty venue, which means your team's levels are being capped lower than where they currently sit. The official reason is that too many challengers are leaving your gym without a badge, so they're stopping their journey entirely, which is bad for regional participation numbers. You need to be easier to beat. You push back at the next monthly meeting, with your objection written out on a single page and handed to the league representative before anyone sits down. The representative reads it, sets it on the table, and explains that the data is clear and the decision has already been made. So you go home and pull your strongest Pokémon out of rotation, replacing them with a lineup that fits inside the new level cap. And the next week, you start losing to teams you would have beaten without any trouble before. The part that takes the longest to get used to is watching challengers leave with a badge they aren't ready for. You know it because you can see exactly where their strategy has gaps, and you know the next gym is going to be harder on them because of it. But the league made the call, so you hand the badge over and keep your mouth shut. Then, one afternoon, your water-type friend sends you a message saying she's done and is opening a Pokémon daycare on the edge of town instead. You read it twice, then put your phone down on the back room table and sit there for a while. The gym feels different after that, and somewhere in the region, the trainer who swept you 6 months ago has just become champion. She sends you a letter saying she wants to visit. A few months later, the champion comes back to visit your gym. She's 19 now, with her championship badge on her jacket, and her team fully evolved from the ones she used to sweep you 5 years ago. She walks through the front door, looks around the gym floor, and tells you that this was the hardest battle on her whole journey, and that beating you was the moment she knew she could win the championship. You tell her that's generous of her, and you mean it as a genuine response, not a humble one, because you've watched the footage of her final championship battle enough times to know she would have won regardless. She leaves after about an hour, and you go back to your regular challenger schedule the next morning. The years after that move, in a way that's hard to track from the inside. You battle challengers, attend league meetings, and keep your team inside the level cap. Your first Pokémon is slower now, with its movements in battle taking a beat longer than they used to. So you start pulling it from your active rotation to protect it, and only bring it out for low-stakes situations where the result is already decided. It sits in the back room during most battles, with its head resting on its front legs and its eyes following you across the floor. A few years into this stretch, the league sends you a younger assistant to help manage the gym's paperwork and scheduling. He's enthusiastic, asks a lot of questions about your type specialty, and takes detailed notes during battles he watches from the side of the floor. He's learning the job from the inside out, which means the league sent him here on purpose. You already know what that means. Then, the formal letter arrives, and the language in it is very careful about what it's actually saying. The letter is offering you an advisory role in trainer development at the regional league headquarters 3 towns away. It's a desk job. You read it twice, then set it down on the backroom table next to your first Pokémon, who is lying on its side with its eyes half open and its legs stretched out across the floor. You pick up a pen and write your resignation instead. A week later, you're working through the back room, boxing up years of paperwork and old league correspondence, when the front door of the gym opens and a kid walks in with a single Pokeball clipped to his belt and a backpack that looks like it has been through a lot already. He's maybe 11, and he stops in the middle of the floor and looks around at the empty field, with nobody standing on the other side. Nobody told him the gym was closed. He asks if he can still battle. You look at him for a second, then put down the box in your hands, walk back out onto the field, and tell him to take his position. You bring out your first Pokémon with no held item and no strategy, just the two of you standing on the field the way you did on your very first morning when it sat down and refused to move. The kid sends out his Pokémon, and the battle starts, and your first Pokémon moves slowly, but reads every command the kid gives before it lands, so the kid wins with 2 of his Pokémon still standing. You reach into your jacket pocket and take out a badge you weren't supposed to give out anymore. You hand it to him, and he runs out the front door with it held up in his fist. Your first Pokémon walks back to you and sits down at your feet. The two of you stay there on the floor for a while. Then the gym lights go out on their automatic timer, and that's it. That's how it ends.